An exceptional debate discussion, and I think that you gave food for thought for what lies ahead. Minister, I think a lot was said. First of all, it's a great honor to be hosting the Minister of National Economy and Finance once again in an AmCham conference, and particularly the Greek Economic Summit, and he always honors us with his presence. Minister, it gives us great pleasure to hear what you have prepared to say, and I give you the floor, sir. President, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to be in yet another conference of the American Hellenic Chamber of Commerce. It gives me also great pleasure to have witnessed and listened to this very interesting panel before my turn came up, in which the speakers had much greater capability, as of their role, to express their views without any institutional limitations imposed by my role. Now, hearing them, I decided not to stick to the written presentation I had prepared, but to say a few things that will, to an extent, comment on what I just heard. I may sound slightly different because I have a cold, but I will try to say everything. Greece and the United States traditionally maintain a deep and substantial relationship. It was rather disturbed at the popular level after the dictatorship. It was shaken, rather. But I believe that it keeps on improving steadily with the culmination of the most recent years. And I believe that, especially in these past 5 years, they may have reached the best level ever, the Greek-American relations. It is certain that apart from the common financial and geopolitical interests, what binds us, and this is more true in turmoil times, we're bound and brought together by common values and our devotion to defending democracy and freedom. What unites us is also the Greek element, the Greek diaspora in the United States. So in the political strategic level, Greece consolidates its position as, I believe, the most reliable partner of the United States in Southeast Europe and the Mediterranean, Southeast Mediterranean. At the financial level, the United States is the biggest of Europe financial partner of Greece in terms of trade, investment, and tourism. Very encouraging is the fact that Greece has managed to attract, after many decades, many important American investments. American colossal businesses decided to invest in Greece again, in the pharma industry, in the banking sector, in the banking financial sector, and particularly in new technologies. And I believe that this cannot be underestimated. Greek exports towards the United States are 2.5% of the Greek GDP. 1% in goods, 1.5% in services, and the balance with the United States is in favor of Greece. It is a surplus, 3.3 billion or 1.4% of the GDP. So obviously, We wouldn't want to see a different tariff policy imposed, not only because we are in solidarity with the European Union, but for reasons that are of clear natural interest. Now, to be honest, our commercial relations are not at such a high point as those of Germany or France or Italy, perhaps. So we would not be that affected by a tension in the financial relationships between the two sides across the Atlantic. Be that as it may, we steadily support free trade. And I believe that this strategic relationship will carry on under the new American administration. I mean, it's not entirely new, is it? I mean, we have past experience from the new administration, the new American administration. Between 2016 and 2020, we experienced it again. And I declare that I'm ambitious that at the end of the line, we will manage to find again a modus operandi, an MO. Which brings me to Greek economy per se. Now, as you know, the budget was submitted to the House recently. The financial and political analysts face a conundrum, as they call it, a paradox. On the one hand, we have macroeconomics and fiscal numbers that show a steady improvement of our economy. And then in the surrounding discussion, one may ascertain a skepticism or a lack of optimism. There is pessimism, as though the country were making steps towards the back or being on the wrong path. What is the truth, and where lies the truth? Indeed, we have been affected, same as all European countries, nay, all advanced countries in the world. We've been impacted by inflation and the repeated crises we had to endure. Surely, and no one claims, surely we're not one of the first in the European Union, are we? But we're not the last, as many insist to claim in their own way. Yes, indeed. Greece is still licking its wounds from this unprecedented crisis of the past decade. However, we're steadily on the rise, thanks to the policies and solutions that the government has adopted, but also thanks to Greek citizens themselves. Businesses, workers, citizens, businesses, workers, the overall national effort we're undertaking. So this positive development, if you'd like, was first and foremost the result of a policy that is based on two pillars. Okay, one is fiscal prudence, and the second is pro-investment policy. Nothing was granted, okay, in Greece, neither one nor the other, which is why we fell for it, which is why we bore the brunt of it with the crisis of the past 10 years. I mean, it became an ideology for some, it's not an ideology, an ideology by some. This great deficit and this great debt had been made into an ideal. Spend so that we can have growth. Borrow if you can't spend. And we would borrow and we would borrow. And this became primarily during the 1980s, it became the financial and the economic logo of some, their motto, which brought us to the point where we couldn't pay off what we borrowed. And we experienced all these things that we still bitterly remember, which is why this government insists, and mind you, will keep on insisting, in fiscal prudence, no matter what the sirens of populism sing about, and no matter what ideological political veneer they may adopt. Because We know that we will foot the bill, okay, I will receive the bill, me, the Prime Minister, but primarily Greek citizens. We will not be spending, ladies and gentlemen, more than what we can bear, more than what we make. And we're very satisfied and very happy to say that without subverting or undermining the developmental and growth prospects of the country, au contraire, we have very high growth rates as compared to the other European countries. With this fiscal policy, we have the fourth highest primary surplus, fiscal primary surplus in the European Union. Whereas at the same time, our public debt is de-escalating in the highest rates all over Europe, the European Union. And, well, as we can see, 2028, as analysts say, 2028, Greece, after a long number of years, will not be the country with the biggest debt as a percentage of the GDP in the whole of the European Union. At the same time, we're implementing a policy with very specific, very precise characteristics in terms of taxation. We are focusing on reducing taxes, and this is something I will come back to, and then combating tax evasion. Now, the first is an easy task and very popular. The latter is hard, because it bears political cost, which is something that we shouldered. We did shoulder this political cost, you see, and today we can say that 2024 was that year in modern Greek economic history with the best results in our struggle against tax evasion compared to any other year that I can remember. 1.8 billion euros net benefit from our struggle to reduce tax evasion. Never any other country after the restoration of democracy in Greece had such tangible results in combating tax evasion compared to the Mitsotakis government, and the money is being put to good use. It is utilized, be that in enhancing social support, to enhance investments, or to further reduce the debt. Therefore, this effort is actually yielding fruit, and henceforth they will be more utilized in further reducing taxes. Now, this in terms of fiscal and tax policy. Which brings us to our investment policy, how it's manifested and how it develops. First of all, by reducing taxation and social security contributions. We've said time and again, and I will repeat it yet again, we have a reduction of tax rates from 28% to 22% for legal persons. In terms of tax rates, dividend taxation was halved, and we have a reduction of social security contributions with the latest reduction that will be passed by the House, that will bring us to the EU average, hopefully. At the same time, we have something that I should like to stress even further. Between 2022 and 2023, Greece was the EU country with the highest tax reduction as a percentage of the GDP, from 42.8 to 40.7%, 2.1. And this is official Eurostat's data. Therefore, our policy, which combines lower tax rates with the battle against tax evasion yields fruit. At the same time, we promoted reforms that improved entrepreneurship and the labor markets. I had a personal participation through the labor reform of 2021 as the minister. Initiatives to alleviate the banking system from the burdens that it inherited from the crisis and the reduction of competitiveness in order to help finance businesses and households. Over the past 15 or 16 months, we completed 13, mind you, 13 privatizations from the TAIPEV and the Fiscal Stability, the Financial Stability Fund, and we doubled public investment from 5.6 billion in 2019 to 13.1 billion in 2024, utilizing and leveraging financial funds, the NSRF, the RRF, but also increasing public expenditure. That being said, I should like to focus now on something that I consider as the most important thing I have to share with you today, ladies and gentlemen. That has nothing to do with the government, it has nothing to do with the opposition, it doesn't have to do with the past, it doesn't even have to do with what we often discuss about on the media. What it does have to do with is something that I consider particularly noteworthy. This is no other than at least 5 national success stories of Greeks of this recent period, about which we all collectively feel proud here in our country, because what I'm about to say was not just efforts of a single government. They were efforts, they were endeavors of an entire people, one way or another. These are our homeland's successes, and I will refer to 5 such national achievements. The first one is the biggest increase in investment all over Europe in the past 5 years. 63, 64% in stable values. Yes, there is still an investment gap, but we are starting to converge. All these things did not go without saying, mind you, and they were surely an effort in which Greek entrepreneurial community contributed, and we must say this time and again, creative Greek entrepreneurs, someone must give them credit where credit is due. We must recognize their contribution, but also Greek employees who in a large national alliance have brought our country with its entrepreneurial society and community much higher. Number 2, the biggest increase in exports all over the EU in the last 5 years compared to 2008. Our exports as a percentage of the GDP have more than doubled. And this happened somehow. Some business people worked. Some workers, some employees collaborated with them. We, Greeks, made it. Let's not just focus on the negatives, let's look at the positive parts. The same way we recognize the achievements of our athletes or our scientists the world over, our artists all over the world, let's visit the successes of business people and their employees. They're Greeks too. And I believe that we have every reason to say a big bravo to all those who made these things happen, regardless of whose government. Number 3, the biggest ever reduction of unemployment in the whole of the EU. 5 years ago, in a country of 10.5 million people, such as Greece, 500,000 Greek men and women who are today employed didn't have a day's wage to feed their children. If they didn't have a job, they would have to bear the brunt of inflation and all this expensive wave in a much worse way. The fact that they're working did not just happen on their own. It has to do with government initiatives, and I will give that away. I'm not seeking praise. We're trying to do our job. But this is definitely also due to the efforts made by some people in the enterprise world in order to restart the engines of Greek economy. Or am I wrong? Was it a miracle that just happened? It had happened somehow, and we need to credit some people for it. Number 4, despite the coronavirus, and despite the fact that in Greece the coronavirus had a very poor impact, same as all Mediterranean countries due to tourism and what happened to it. Our country, if you take a look at the data, is in the top 10 the world over of tourist destinations, alongside the big countries that by definition attract many visitors, such as the US, the UK, France, Italy, Spain, and so on and so forth. Greece ranks in the first 10. Little old Greece of 10.5 million people, with twofold or threefold tourists than its population. Shouldn't we give kudos to the tourist sector entrepreneurs? Shouldn't we congratulate the employees of the tourist sector for their efforts in Greek tourism for all these years? Shouldn't we feel satisfied and content about all this? Does anyone feel that we should be nagging and whining about such a national success? Am I wrong? Please correct me if I'm wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Now I don't know whether you actually noticed it, and I want to point that out because therein we have a hidden Greek superpower that starts playing its role in a more active way. We have much more distinct and distinguishable presence of Greek ship owners in investments that happen in our country. Within the geographical confines of Greece. Am I speaking theoretically? No, I'm not, I assure you. Just think of how many investments of Greek ship owners took place in tourism in the past years, in real estate, in shipbuilding, in renewable energy sources. Greek ship owners are a global power. They are an untapped potential for Greece, and the government, with the pro-investment policy we have adopted, are trying to attract them increasingly in Greece, to bring them back to Greece. And it gives us pleasure to see that this is changing. We're not seeking bravos and praise or whatnot because this bothers some. No, we're not. We're just trying to do our job. What I am pointing out, though, is a reality, and it's something that we must encourage even further, because it can truly enhance this national effort in a great way. So we are moving forward with all this in mind. We're moving even further, even faster. How do we do that, you might ask? With fiscal seriousness, prudence combined with fair and just taxation. I already described all these things. I will not be too detailed. You can see the budget, primary surplus of 2.4% of the GDP, whereas the overall deficit of the budget will be close to naught, zero, nil. And this, at a time of international turmoil, is very important, mind you, because its message, it broadcasts the message everywhere that the Greek ship has an anchor. We must not underestimate that. No one should underestimate the constant and fast de-escalation of public debt. In terms of taxation, the tax bill will be submitted to the plenary session of the House tomorrow. It will have an additional 12 reductions of taxes to the total amount of 900 million euros. And now, by our calculations, on the basis of the course of the budget, the revenue, and the efforts to further curb tax avoidance, we calculate that for 2026 and 2027, we will be able to make additional reductions of direct taxes, because it's direct taxation that actually passes directly, has a direct impact on the pocket of consumers, of taxpayers, rather. And they're not pocketed by a go-between, an intermediary. And at the same time, combined with this effort in the fiscal plane, we will continue our attempts to develop and grow. First of all, with reforms. I will not focus on what was already mentioned, and I couldn't agree more with all that, regarding justice, regarding public administration, regarding the cadastre, regarding the land uses. I totally agree. I will add that the banking system is a key pillar in our efforts. It is important that the red loans approach the European average. With Heracles 3 that will be probably approved by the end of the year. We will really reach somewhere. We will reach this European Union average. Whereas at the same time, our concern is competitiveness, to see competition among banks, the further expansion and broadening of electronic transactions combined with an enhancement of transparency, and justice in public procurement. And of course, as a result of all these, a stronger support of actual economy and small and medium-sized enterprises. In short, we want a healthy banking system on the one hand, because lo and woe and behold, if the country does not have a healthy banking system. But on the other hand, a banking system that will be prevailed by fair competition rules, and also the government will be mindful, as will the banks, regarding the needs of the economy and society. In the same context, we have the utilization of the newly established National Investment Fund that will work as a co-investor with private parties, working as a catalyst in an attempt to encourage the public sector to cover some shortcomings in investments following the model of other European countries. Indicatively, our sector's priority are the green transition, cyclic and blue economy, strategic infrastructures, transport and technology. Also, public investment in 2025 will amount to 14.1 billion. The RRF will be a particularly crucial factor next year, because we will have to absorb no less than 5 billion euros. So we are called upon to do our very best. We rank 5th or 6th in such absorption of funds in order to utilize every single euro from the RRF and Brussels in general. Now, I should like to close in regards with investment with the non-state-owned universities. As of September 2025, apparently, the first non-state-run universities will start operating in Greece. This is a positive message for our educational system. We are becoming liberated from Soviet-style opinions. Greece becomes a proper European country, and this is something that's, well, from the time I was a student, I have tried to make it happen with many colleagues back then in the universities. But what I want to underline today is the investment dimension of this initiative. Because foreign investment will come to the country. New jobs will be created. The market will grow. We can have Greece as an international educational hub. So this is yet another way to support Greek economy. It's another opportunity that we need to tap. At the same time, we should not forget about social cohesion. This effort is recorded in the budget. We have 12 different increases in pay, an attempt to rationalize social benefits and to allow them to reach those who really need them. We continue increasing wages and salaries based on what the economy can tolerate and support, and the businesses. The minimum wage of 950 euros still remains as our target for 2027, and the average salary in Greece to be 1,500 euros. And overall, we always try, how else could it be? We always try for growth and to have a social dividend for growth, for the workers, for the working force, and all the more so for those who need it the most, the poorer, our poorer fellow citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, this is about what I wanted to share with you. For the past 5 years, we've been in an environment of subsequent crises. The mere words coronavirus or energy crisis suffice to describe what we've experienced. Right now, there are 2 wars being waged in our neighborhood, in Ukraine and in the Middle East. It is clear that we need to be very careful. It is clear that populism, this national cancer that we have paid time and again, must remain as far away as possible from the public sphere, the public discussion and public choices. As regards Greek government, rest assured that we have learned our lessons from the past, and we will keep on the narrow and winding road of national responsibility. And national responsibility means fiscal prudence and pro-investment policy. This is what we've attempted to implement. This is what we will keep on implementing. Learning the lessons from the past, from the present, correcting policies where necessary, no one is infallible, listening to proposals from society, the stakeholders, social partners, but always without watering our wine, the wine of seriousness and responsibility. That's the way forward, and that is how we believe that with a great, big national alliance of all the people involved in the political system who are not willing to be populists, regardless of whether they share different opinions, of all the business people who will keep striving to bring our country higher, and all the working people, all the employees who want their children to live in a better country, all we, together, a big national alliance for responsibility, we will make it happen, and we will take our country even higher. Thank you very much.